Thank you. So my name is Joel Levine. I'm the chairman of the board of MBTL, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our lecture this afternoon. We're very, very happy to be able to have the time of Ray Baumel, someone who has a very, very long history in this community that he's going to share with us, and we're going to get his recollections on the record. I think his daughter is here taking a video. We're also making a video of this, which is going to be posted on our website shortly. We have a special surprise this afternoon, and I'd like Daniel to come up here and present it.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, everyone. My name is Daniel Serraldo. For those of you who I don't know yet, I'm the executive director here at the Miami Design Preservation League. We're very happy to have our first fall lecture of the 2024 lecture series. And I was thinking that numbers for us are very important with Art Deco, and many of you know why. And I was wondering, next year is going to be the Art Deco Centennial. The number 100 is a big number. And it just so happens that our first speaker for this wonderful event is 99 years young. So we're very, very lucky to have him here. And I wanted to also thank you all for joining this special event. It's an incredible life that Ray Baumel has had and has, and we're here to celebrate that. A man who has brought rhythm, laughter, and culture to Miami Beach for nearly a century. From his vibrant music to his lasting impact on film and entertainment, Ray's story is full of passion and history. And we're thrilled to have him with us, and I know you'll find his journey as inspiring as we do. Now, for those who are not yet members, I wanted to encourage you to become a member of the League. And also, our next event is this Thursday. We're having the opening reception of this exhibit, Connecting Concrete from Havana to Miami. And also our new Hohauser exhibit recently has opened. So we have a lot to celebrate. This coming Thursday at 6 p.m. And then Friday, November 8th at North Shore Youth Center, we will have the Art of Architecture with architect Jamie Strauss. And November 23rd, we will have Elizabeth Camargo, who is the president-elect of AIA of Florida, and she will be our final speaker, 2 p.m. November 23rd at the museum. Now, before I hand it over to our key speaker today, I have a little surprise. When the mayor and commission found out that we were having this event, they said, well, this is a very special event, a very special person, and they have decided to proclaim today as Ray Mambo Baumel Day in the city of Miami Beach. So let's give them a round of applause. Where is it?
That is a surprise.
Isn't that nice? And they all signed it. Usually they don't all sign it. That means they really like it. Great. Well, thank you so much. And now let us give a warm welcome to Ray Mambo.
That is a surprise. Imagine me a speaker for almost 40 years and I'm speechless. That was really a surprise. So great to be here again. And I do up front want to thank Joel Levine, Matthew, and Daniel, who have been fantastic in making things easier for an old fart. Can you say fart? Is that okay? Okay. Already said. They'll believe it. But it's, I tell you, it's just hard to believe that I came to Miami Beach with my folks in 1838. I'm just checking to see if you're paying attention. So, and it was actually a small town. We lived on a beach. I went to Ida Fisher Junior High. I went to Miami Beach Senior High. So many memories pop in. Being here, this was my beach when I lived on 10th and Lenox. Used to walk from 10th from Lenox down, and this was the beach. But the swinging beach to the kids was 14th Street. That's where they went every weekend. And it was because the high school's on the 14th and Drexel. So, but the weekends, that's where everybody went. And when I got here, I realized, well, I was 13 years old, and I realized that the city of Miami Beach was only 8 years older than I was. Now that sounds impossible, but I'm talking about 8 on the 13. It was 21 years old. I mean, 21 years that the city of Miami grew to be a city in 1917. So I do want to concentrate, but I tell you what, maybe we'll roll the video of the my induction into the Miami Beach Senior High Hall of Fame. I was an inductee, and let's go with that, and I'll talk afterwards.
Ray Mambo, class of 1942, musician, actor, artist, and comedian.
My maiden name is Marvin, but nobody's called me that since my parents, so it's Marvin Baumel.
While going to high school, Ray, or as he was known at the time, Marvin Baumel, loved English, art, and drama. Ray also learned Spanish and became fluent thanks to his teacher at Miami Beach Senior High School.
Well, my favorite subjects were surprisingly English, because I mentioned my homeroom teacher. She taught us Macbeth, out, damn spot, and she was terrific.
He was also very active in many clubs such as the National Honor Society, National Thespian Society, and National Quill and Scroll. He created the artwork that was featured in his graduating class yearbook and spent over 2 years working on 2 different murals, one that even hung up in the journalism classroom and years later was installed in the Miami Beach post office.
I had been drawing since I could hold a pencil.
After graduating, his goal was to go to Mexico to study murals. However, the war broke out and his plans quickly changed.
In fact, it was all set up that I was going to go to Mexico, to Guanajuato, to study murals. This is what I was interested in.
He helped out a lot during World War II. He was part of a show called the Khaki Caballeros. He performed this around hospitals and bases to all of the sick and wounded soldiers there.
And then in the Army, I was with the Puerto Rican War Department show, so I was playing music. Like I say, what did you, kid, what did you do in the war, Daddy? I played bongos with the Puerto Rican orchestra,
With the end of World War II, he planned to go back to art school. However, an opportunity arose for a weekend gig playing Latin music.
And when I had the band, it was quite by accident that I took the name of Ray Mambo.
And so he became Ray Mambo, and he was even able to bring his wife in as the main singer.
But then, when that weekend gig came up and then turned into, it just looked really promising, I figured, well, I could always go back to art school, let me give this a shot. So little did I know that it would end up for decades.
A stage name and a decade later, Ray decided to yet again change paths in his career. Later in his life, around the years 1960 to 1975, he acted as an extra in many shows and even did a cameo role with Frank Sinatra in the show Tony Rome.
The acting was an accident, by accident. I always thought people go to commercials had to be beautiful. So, although I'm attractive in some ways, and going on the interview for Tony Rome, which was Sinatra's first film, and then a great story about Lady in Cement, which I did, and I did the Gleason Show, also a couple of shots on the Gleason Show.
Along with this, Ray, for a short while, became a stand-up comedian, performing at the Playboy Club circuit in the years 1962 to 1968.
I got into acting actually at the same time I was doing stand-up comedy, which ended up in the Playboy clubs. So, which I never expected.
Ray lit up the world with his creativity and artistic viewpoints.
Something that can help other people in what you're doing. I was lucky. I made them laugh. I made them enjoy. I made them happy. What more can you ask for?
This is why we welcome him into the Alumni Hall of Fame.
I chose that for several reasons because Miami Beach Senior, and by the way, that short video was done by the film and television students at Miami Beach Senior High under the guise of an excellent teacher who, by the way, happens to be here, Chi-Chi Pierce. And Chi-Chi, thank you. That was professional. I mean, really, it was well done. Thanks to you, and thanks for being here. You're a sweetie, and I really appreciate it. The high school was so important to me in so many ways because, and that's what I want to stress, not that it was the only high school in town, but the teachers were just fantastic. My Spanish teacher, I ended up, and I do, speak Spanish fluently. And with her help, she was just excellent. And I mentioned my English teacher. What a basis. My English teacher was my journalism teacher. And what a basis for young people and how important that is. And I had never expected really to do anything but, go, as I mentioned, go to Mexico, study art. And it was all set up with a student in Guanajuato of Orozco, who was a biggie in those days. People remember Diego Rivera, but Orozco was very important. So I do want to talk about, in fact, I think it might be a good idea to, can we run that other, let me just mention, by the way, rather than being self-aggrandizing about the last video, the people who were inducted into the Hall of Fame, people of the community, outstanding members and all that. And I did a little research, and I was really surprised to hear who some of the inductees were in the Miami Beach Senior High Hall of Fame. Ever hear of Andy Garcia? That was a surprise. And somebody else that you may have heard of, Barbara Walters. She also went to Miami Beach High. And another person, Robert Rubin. Robert Rubin was the Secretary of Treasury under the Clinton administration. I'm not putting myself in that in that vernacular, but just to point out how important that was and what Miami Beach Senior High was. I'm sorry for the breaking.
This is the story of Latin music, Miami Beach, and Ray Mambo.
I first came to Miami Beach in 1938, 2 months after I was 13 years old. I guess it was love at first sight. I just fell in love with Latin music. That's what turned me to everything Latin. We would listen to the radio from Cuba, and on a good day, it came in as clear as if it were a radio station in Miami. So we heard the best bands from Cuba in the 30s and 40s.
The music, already gaining popularity with tours to Cuba, was a fusion of West African rhythms and European dance music. Drums were the driving force.
That beat was just fascinating to me. And I got so wrapped up in it. I remember not being able to afford bongos, so I got 2 Quaker oats, tied it with a string, and those were my bongos. My dad was in retail on Miami Beach on Washington Avenue. And one day he comes in and he hands me a pair of bongos, a present for me. I went absolutely bongos. My nickname was Bongo. Kids in school, hey, Bongo, you know.
In 1940, Miami Beach was bustling with tourists. Latin music bands played in all the nightclubs and hotels. When the U.S. entered World War II in 1941, Miami Beach became a military training base. The hotels were filled with soldiers. Troops marched to training classes and did exercises on the beach. Marvin finished high school in 1942. As soon as he turned 18, he was drafted into the Army.
Got in the Army in 44, and then ended up in a War Department show playing bongos. What'd you do in the war, Daddy? I played bongos with a Puerto Rican orchestra.
As part of the Khaki Caballeros, Marvin performed across the country on Army bases and in hospitals for wounded soldiers. After the war, he came back to Miami Beach.
Well, I was just playing with 3 other guys just for kicks. And I saw an ad in the Miami Herald, and it said, strings wanted, Latin room, Pan American Hotel. And I said, let's go, we'll audition. I went and auditioned, the guy liked it. He says, okay, we'll hire you for the weekend. What's your name? I said, Marvin Baumel. He said, no, we can't do that. You're a Latin band, you know, you gotta have a Latin name. I said, let me think. He said, no, you can't think. I have to call the Herald in. The deadline is now. So I had a recording that was El Rey del Mambo by Machito. Nobody knew what the mambo was. Hard in this country. And it was. So I said, Ray Mambo. And I figured for a weekend, what the hell? You know, 15 years I had the name, Ray Mambo. And what was even worse, my wife was Mrs. Mambo. My wife, she was a singer we met when she was with USO. And there was this girls trio like the Andrews sisters, a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead. And little did I know, the redhead would end up to be my wife for 59 years. I said to her, you know, it's ridiculous. I've got a band, you're a singer. Why aren't you singing with the band? She says, you know why, I don't sing in Spanish. I said, I'll teach you to sing in Spanish. And she said, you're nuts. And I said, no, I'm not. And she learned to sing phonetically in Spanish perfectly. And fronted the band, played maracas, and sang, but she couldn't speak Spanish. Somebody would come up, you know, after we did a number and say, perdóname, yo tengo una petición, una canción. She'd say, un momento. And she'd point to me.
Ray was riding high on a new wave of Latin music, which was an exciting interplay of Afro-Caribbean percussion, brass horns, and vocals. People didn't just listen, they danced. Recordings poured out of the studios in New York and Mexico. When tourists came to Miami Beach on vacation, they loved the beach, but at night they wanted to go to the clubs and dance the rumba, the mambo, and the cha-cha.
Every hotel had a Latin band. In the 50s, these people who circled the Palladium on Wednesday nights in New York came down here and they had to have their Latin music. Every hotel, the major band was a Latin band. If you heard an American band in a hotel, it was usually what they called the relief band. It was the other band that filled in after the Latin band.
Well, Saturday night and I just got paid. About the money, don't try to save.
In the 1950s, rock and roll became the new sensation, and Latin music faded to the background. But in Miami especially, Latin music was revived with the arrival of tens of thousands of Cubans who left Cuba after the Cuban Revolution and brought their music with them.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Young musicians who are growing up in culturally rich South Florida are part of the mixture of new and old. The Latin beat will continue to resonate on Miami Beach, the place where Marvin Baumel became Ray Mambo.
Arriba, arriba.
And it's just amazing how things in life change your direction in life. And with me, it was an ad in the Miami Herald. And the other thing was an empty chair, which I'll get to in a bit. This was the first group I had, and it was at the Pan American Hotel on 2nd Avenue, right off Flagler, which is no longer there, like everything else, which is no longer there. And we were behind the bar. And believe it or not, it was crowded every single night. Saturdays were really crowded, and there was no dancing. Hard to believe that people came to listen in those days. And it was great. I was the only non-Latino. This was Jack Barcena on the left, and Coto Garcia, Arsenio Rodriguez. This is the white one. There is a very famous black Cuban musician, composer, Arsenio Rodriguez. It's coincidental. And there he is, a Jewish kid from Coney Island. Now, what the hell is he doing? You know. So let me. Oh, this was actually in the Palm Beach Hotel, which was the first Jewish hotel in Palm Beach. And we played all over the hotel, including the kosher dining room, which was sort of idiosyncratic, but they enjoyed it, so that was good. This was at the Beachcomber nightclub, and this sign I designed and I made. It took me a long time, but it stood about this high. So it was at the Beachcomber, and I did not. This was at least a story and a half high at Place Miguel. So I just drew it, and of course somebody went up there and painted it. But this was only because we had another gig. We were playing at a hotel in Miami Beach, and then we got a gig up in Motel Road, which, by the way, Joel Levine did an excellent presentation. I urge you to see on Sunny Isles on the Motel Road. So my industrious trumpet player was trying to get a helicopter to fly us back and forth, which was too expensive. So we went up by Intracoastal. We played one gig in Miami Beach, and then motored up and played the other gig up in Sunny Isles. The Herald learned about it, and consequently, these are photos from the Miami Herald. There's sort of a mix of stuff. My wife was indescribable, and her daughter is right there next to Gigi. Blessed with this lovely lady, not only gorgeous, but gorgeous inside as well. 59 years we were married, and this was, I believe, at the Caribbean Hotel. And this reminded me, one of the Q&A, one of the speeches I did at the, I think it was at the Wilsonian, asked me if I ever worked 9 to 5. And I said, no, actually I didn't. Nothing, no disparaging about 9 to 5, but that's not the way you worked as a musician. But then it dawned on me, I did work for 2 weeks from 9 to 5. I worked from 9 to 12 at the Seville Hotel, where I was for actually 3 years, and then worked at Singapore Lounge from 1 to 5 in the morning. So technically, I worked 9 to 5, folks, so I thought that was funny. There's Lynn, and we added ITA to her name, and she became Linita. She just thought it was ridiculous for me to suggest that she'd sing with the band. because she spoke no Spanish. So I taught her, and phonetically, she spoke without any accent perfectly, and had an idea of what she was singing about, but couldn't speak Spanish. She was a knockout. Yeah, yeah, she was, and very self-effacing about that. So this is actually the only first album I did in 1949, and it was at Criteria Records, which by then was just getting on its feet. By the way, I drew that in caricatures. The reason I put this in, Mac Emerman was such a close friend, and as well as his wife Chili, and this is one of the groups that he had with his Bee Gees. That's a platinum Cadillac, which I got as a gift. If you go, and I urge you to, go either to Criteria or Mac Emerman and see, there's everybody who ever made it in the business. This was at Culper City. Culper City was a fabulous nightclub, and it was on Dade Boulevard. In fact, right less than a block away was the Beachcomber, and then just steps away was Mother Kelly's, and there was also Ciro's. Ciro's was a supper club. No acts, 2 bands, and I alternated with Louis Armstrong, and I was the Latin band. It even got a mention in Walter Winchell. Probably few of you ever heard of Walter Winchell, but that made my life, you know, Walter Winchell and all that. So it was a supper club in those days. And what it was really dinner and dance. That was it. It was an upscale place, though. Well, Nat Cole, he was at the Beachcomber, and one of the nicest guys ever, unassuming, just to be there. He was terrific. Well, you may have heard of this guy, Tony Bennett. This was also at Culper City, and Tony and I were in our mid-20s. I believe he was a year younger than I. I think I was 25 and he was 24. And he was just monumental to the very day, up to Lady Gaga and whatever. He still had those chops. His voice was super. And like I say, I think it went along with being a nice guy. I mean, well, there were a lot of not nice guys, but they were sensational. This was at Culper City also, and I doubt if you can recognize the lady, Josephine Baker. Josephine Baker was fabulous. She walked on stage dragging a tremendous fur coat, which she just let drop. What a statement that was. Here I am, folks. And what a career she had. Not only what she did on stage, but what she did as an activist and, quote, spy. She smuggled secrets during the war on her sheet music. I urge you definitely to go and check on Josephine Baker and see in Wikipedia or wherever her life, and then later on what she's done for kids was phenomenal. And by the way, I understand there's a Josephine Baker Day here in Miami Beach next month. I don't know if they recognize it every single year or not. I tried to contact them, to let them know that I was her percussionist here at the Copa. And in fact, she offered me to tour with her for 2 weeks, but I couldn't because I had a contract to come back with my band. So she got another drummer. I don't know if you ever heard of Buddy Rich. So, but he registered with her. Weird, you know, I didn't plan on this, and I won't get into the details, but this is the empty chair. And what let me, oh, by the way, I do want to say, as far as the music was concerned, I forgot to mention that I realized that Art Deco, I actually saw some of the hotels go up. So, and the reason I remembered was that the passing here, coming down from Walton Road, I saw the Essex House. I saw the Essex House go up, and everybody was taking pictures at the marquee. So I went up. In those days, you took a picture and waited 2 weeks, you know, for it to develop. And I was wondering, you know, well, I'm taking, so I'll take a picture. And the reason everybody was taking pictures of the marquee was that there was a storm that knocked off the first 2 letters. The things you remember in a lifetime. So, but then the Cardozo Hotel, I played there. Actually, the first time I played drums with sticks, and only because my best friend's father owned a hotel. And let me see, while I'm talking about hotels, yeah, I opened quite a few hotels. I opened the Seville Hotel, ended up being there for 3 years. Those are the days as a musician. You worked a full week and had Monday off. That's almost non-existent today. You know, guys work a gig, and then the next month they come back and work that gig, so they have to work different places. But I opened also the Carolina Hotel, which was beautiful. Worked the Caribbean and Versailles. And all my respect to Joe and his wonderful archive on the Motel Row in Sunny Isles. Those motels were top of the line. I opened the Dunes Hotel with an act, I mean, it's the band, Mel Torme. I mean, Mel Torme, though I love to this day, tough charts that he had, but we managed to get by. The Aztec, the Sahara, Ben Gaines on the Sahara. And 183rd, nothing was there. In fact, when I came first to Miami Beach, I remember my brother and I walked past the Rome Plaza, you know, which was mostly sand. And there was one hotel going up, and my brother and I, we were in hysterics. We had a guy building a hotel here up on 30th Street, on the wrong side of the street. Oh, yeah. And the Castaway. Well, I worked at Castaway not as a musician, but as a stand-up. The nightclubs, like I said, were just phenomenal. The biggest acts in show business. The Beachcomber, Sinatra, and like I say, everybody who was in show business was there. But the bands I want to recognize, the Latin bands, who I can't find hardly anything about all the Latin bands. The bands were the range in those days. Like I mentioned, you know, Jewish people loved Latin music and Chinese food. So so they go to the Palladium on Wednesday nights, you know, line up and dance all night, all morning, in the morning. But then when they came here in the winter, they had to have their Latin music. And so the hotels were great, the bands, you never heard of, but they were really great band. Like I mentioned, almost every single hotel had a Latin band was featured. And Sarcassus was one of the top, who not only had a Latin band, he had about a 13 or 15-piece orchestra. Originally at the Sounds of Sea, and I think went to the Casablanca, and played the top acts. And the thing is, with me, I had to graduate from Latin music to musicians who could read music. The guys in my band couldn't, and play all kinds of music because you played foxtrots, you played everything for people dancing, and it was important to do that. Plus, you had to play shows, and the Landsberg chain had a slew of hotels. I think about 8 hotels, and the acts worked from one hotel to the other. But the hotels, the owners would never pay for a rehearsal. So we had to do talk over it. And that means you take the music and you look at it, you talk about it, and you play it cold. So you had to sight read another day. In other words, so that developed that. So let's go ahead with this and with Actor Number Flipper. Gentle Ben. And the one and only Jackie Gleason. Yeah, I worked a couple of Gleason shows. And then Sinatra. It was so great because they were unable to star in all the venues. And then with Sinatra and others, but particularly Sinatra, came to the Fontainebleau, did his act, but then would film. And film, the first film in Miami Beach that he filmed was Tony Rowe. And he was dynamite. He'd be on the set at 12 o'clock, know his lines. And this is after going to Jilly's, was a hangout, I think on Treasure Island. He'd go there, be there till 2, 3, and 4 in the morning. And it was amazing. He'd come by and this was my stick with, there was on the Gleason show with Art Carney and Jackie Gleason. And, oh, there it is, the video. Do we have audio? This is the clip from Tony Rome. I don't know why it's going so fast.
Keep it up, we got a vacancy.
How nice. You know him?
Why?
5. Not till you make me happy.
You make it 10?
I'm thinking to make it 250.
Well, he was staying here, but he checked out early this morning.
To where?
How would I know?
You got 50 cents. You want to try for $1.
Well, he registered as Fields, John Fields. Drove a Pontiac sedan. That's all I can think of.
Did you ever make any calls to that switchboard?
Yeah, he made one.
To whom?
That ought to cost you more.
You haven't earned this yet.
Here it is. Wednesday night to Sally Bullock in Miami. 634-424.
I got it. Get the number.
Don't get anybody there now. It's a joint. It's called the Paradise Cove. It ain't open at night.
What did he say to this here Sally Bullock?
I don't listen in.
You should.
Actually,
You just blew yourself an extra 10.
You know, actually, actually, I remember when I did it, it was a big deal, you know, a motel work. But over 2 minutes on screen with Sinatra, nose to nose, I realized more and more, that's pretty damn good. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you noticed, Sinatra loved it, the director told me, and he said he got a big kick out of you raising your glasses to read it. Well, what he didn't know was the only way I could see it because I didn't have bifocals. You know, so I couldn't read. I had to do this. So, Lady in Cement. So that was a result. I came back later. That was his second film, and I remember calling the agent, and she said, "There's nothing in the film for you." So I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, I said a long shot, and I'll call the Fontainebleau," and I asked for the director, Gordon Douglas. I was amazed that I got through. And he said, Ray, oh, great, you're in town. Ray, he didn't know I lived here. And he says, come on over. Yeah. So I came, I went up to the penthouse, and he said, you know, I don't really think there's anything here. Take a look at the script. He says, there's something for an Irish bartender in a pool hall. He says, I know you do dialects. He says, how about that? Take a look at the script. So I looked at the script, and I said, Gordon, this is in Miami, right? He said, yeah. I said, why isn't an Irish bartender? Why isn't it Cuban guy? And he said, well, how would it sound? Read it like a Cuban. So I said, but, well, this guy, he come here, he put the things on the wall, you know. He's cracking up. Wait a minute. He calls the producer. He says, you got to come up to the penthouse. The guy comes over to the penthouse. He says, do it. I did the same. He's cracking up. He says, wait a minute. We got to call the scriptwriter. They called the scriptwriter up, and he said, whatever Ray says, change the script. Well, what an opening to do 9 hours, you know, of course, no way. But so I told them exactly, you know, what it was, and they changed the script. So I want, and he says, okay, and the name is Eddie Patrick. No, what? This is a Cuban guy. You got to have a Cuban name. He said, what? I said, Gonzalez. He said, what's the first name? I said, Paco. So my folks, I said that so you can see the day that Paco Gonzalez was born.
Señorita Forrest, I owe you my life. You bring me here to this country. You helped me all these years. But this bugs me.
Tony, you want an onion on this one?
No, thanks.
I have tried to call this Annie Sherwin Baum on the phone 6 times already. He never answered. To find out what take off with this stuff. It's sticky like glue.
When did it happen?
The night he told me he come from your party. Yeah, your party. And he walked in here stinky drunk. And he said to me, I want that wall. And I said to him, listen, my friend, that wall belonged to Paco Gonzalez. And he said to me, that wall belonged to prosperity. What a lousy thing to say to a Cuban. But anyway, when I tried to stop him, he was like a crazy man.
I think it looks pretty nice, Paco.
It's beautiful. Beautiful, maybe for a men's room, but not for a family pool hall. Can you imagine a father come here with his kids to shoot a pool, okay? And he line up a shot over here, take a one look at the wall, look at the cagan, finish the whole thing.
I think you got a problem.
Paco, what's the matter with you? People pay Arnie Sherwin a lot of money for a mural like this.
They pay him a lot of money for this? What a crazy country.
No, but I wouldn't do that, Paco.
Maybe you're right.
You know, tours I'll never forget. People always ask me, you know, talking with Sinatra, and you don't have conversations with people. You know, if they come and talk to you, of course you do, but you respect them and their area. But the director told me, come to Julie's, I'll give you some instructions on where we're going to shoot and what we're going to do. So I go to Julie's, which was they were shooting then, and like I said, the first thing you learn when you walk on the set is to take your shoes off, you know, if they're shooting, so you don't cluck up, you know, all that. Anyways, I walk up and I'm talking to Gordon Douglas, the director, and while I'm talking, a hand comes over and I shake the hand, thinking he was an actor, and I said, you know, blah, 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 okay, I'm going to Fountain Blue, yeah, fine. And I turned around and looked into the bluest eyes I have ever seen. And it was Sinatra. And he said 2 words, which I'll never forget. Welcome aboard. That made my day, really. It was great. I just loved it. I did a comedy act, Sterling and Bownell, and this was one of the headshots that I sent out. And because the headshots are so dumb, you know, they got people, what? Anyway, an agent calls and he says, I can book you in Houston, but you got to send me another headshot. And I said, why? He said, well, they want to see what you look like. I said, well, I'm gorgeous. What do they, you know? He said, no, they want to see whether you're black or white. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, and the agent said, well, look at his hands. The hands are white. He said, they said, yeah, but black people have white hands on the inside. The prejudice was unbelievable, and I refused to date. This is up in the Catskills. You remember Joey Ross, Car 54, Where Are You? So here we are doing Stick as Natural, and it's my partner on the end. And this was on Facebook. Let's see. And then the Playboy Club opened. And the starring performer, which I won't mention, was ill. Actually, he was high on stuff. So that was our first night. We filled in for him, and that kicked off a whole slew of performances all over the country for the Playboy clubs, and that was quite an experience. That's a bad photo of the entrance to the Playboy Club. It was on 77th Street and Biscayne Boulevard. This was an album I wrote when Liz Taylor and Richard Burton were so popular. So that was the Richard and Elizabeth, and that's me on the floor as the court jester. And I wrote all the comedy for it, and Kermit Schaefer, I don't know how many of you would remember Bloopers. But he was a big hit with the Bloopers. So, oh, okay, this is very short.
And I'm here to discover Florida. Well, what's so funny? You never see a hot hat before? No, it's just that Florida was discovered about 500 years ago. You're a little bit late. Well, there was a lot of traffic on the expressway. Well, look, you're not too late for the fiesta. I'm sorry, I cannot say fiesta. That's different. I love the fiesta. Arriba, muchachos. Fiesta time to the musicals. Uncle on the Jambo. Rico Anapo.
That and my daughter, who's over there, was in the Coral Gables band.
Playing the flute on the field.
Playing the flute on the field.
I spoke stereo. Who can say that?
Go figure that. I'm going to go through this fast. This is what I ended up doing for a living, folks. Let me just go through this very quickly. This is the flyer we sent out. My schedule was unbelievable. This is Windows on the World. And there's a guy. And I ended up on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, which changed my life. It was unbelievable what went on with that. So, folks, I just want to say, I was looking at my career. I acted with birds, bears, snakes, dolphins, seals, the one and only Flipper. I was almost stepped on by a bear. Fortunately, Ben was gentle, and I shared my bed with rattlesnakes. I wrote special lyrics for Metropolitan Opera star Leonard Warren. I had barbecue and breakfast with Count Basie and his band, dinner with Joe Williams, soul food with the Oscar Peterson Trio. I played Coon Can, it's conking cards with Nat Cole, who showed me how to play it. I danced the Shim Sham with Pearl Bailey. I had breakfast in Hugh Hefner's Chicago mansion, along with Eddie Fisher and Lenny Bruce. Gary Marshall wrote comedy material for me, as well as the Dick Van Dyke Show. Sang songs with Florence Henderson. We remember the Brady Bunch in her hotel room with Goober, George Lindsay, and fellow cast members joining in. I had Sammy Davis Jr. laughing so hard he was lying on the stage on his back, kicking his heels up in the air. I backed Mel Torme with my band at the opening of the Dunes Hotel, which I mentioned. I shared the stage with Andy Williams, Jimmy Durante, Buddy Hackett, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Louis Armstrong, Nat Cole, Liberace. I was interviewed by Larry King twice on Miami Beach, Pumpernicks in the Fontainebleau Hotel, and created my own character, Paco Gonzalez. How's that for name drop? In fact, I'm so damn famous, I'm surprised I showed up. Well, guys, I just love the fact that you're here, and more so, I love the fact that I'm here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chi-Chi. Thank you, my daughter. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Matthew, whose last name I can never pronounce. And